evening and welcome to Beyond the Front Page. This is our season premiere for the spring 2018 semester here at Cayuga Community College. This is a show that is broadcast on Spectrum, Verizon Fios, the Auburn Regional Media Access, better known as ARMA, as well as WIN 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. More than a decade ago, a local group of philanthropic leaders started to have a community conversation about how to create a long-term fund to help fund local not-for-profits. A little different than the United Way, which kind of acts as the checkbook every year for not-for-profits, but for an annual need, and they do that for annual needs. There was a hope to create more of a savings account of sorts that would allow interest generated to be used for the community's investments over time. Those discussions led to the creation of the Cayuga Fund in 2008 that is based out of the Central New York Community Foundation in Syracuse, with seed money and challenge grants from several foundations. 10 years later, as the Cayuga County Cayuga Fund celebrates its 10th anniversary, they have given out more than $250,000 to dozens of not-for-profits. We're here to talk about not only the fund and how it works, but with an event that they have upcoming with two of their board members, their incoming vice chair, John WILCOX, as well as their current chair, Michael O'Gorman. We are delighted to have you on. You're going to talk about an event that you're going to have at the Auburn Public Theater on the 16th. But for those who don't know, what is the Cayuga Fund?
The Cayuga Fund, as you just mentioned, is celebrating its 10th anniversary. It started in 2008 with a gentleman by the name of Bisgrove that you know very well.
I do.
Stardust Foundation. Jerry Bisgrove offered a challenge grant to the community of $250,000 to come up with matching funds and this pile of money and that pile of money, and that's what started the Cayuga Community Fund. The first grants were not awarded until 2 years later, so technically we're only in our 8th year of giving out grants, and we are now at around $400,000 in donations to the community. The second phase of the Cayuga Community Fund happened when the Cayuga Health Association closed its doors and sold its property.
Better known as Meals on Wheels, for who may not remember that.
There were three parts to the Cayuga Health Association. There was a Meals on Wheels, there was the Nurses' Aids, and there was Link to Life. And when the county chose another supplier for Meals on Wheels, that contract was the death knell for Cayuga Health Association. So the property was sold off, and that money came into a trust fund with the Cayuga Community Fund. And that's a separate fund that's geared directly for nutrition, healthcare for seniors. The general fund goes to all 501c3 charities, and anyone can apply for a grant.
And besides that Cayuga Health, you also have affiliated funds, like there's one for Dr. Romano.
Dr. Romano has a fund for children. There is the Evelyn and Emery Osborne Fund, which is a general fund that can go to anything within the county. There is the Beal Fund, which is a split between the Central New York Community Fund and the Cayuga Community Fund, primarily for women's health care. Those are designated funds, and anyone that wants to set up a fund like that can do it through the Central New York Community Fund.
So on that particular fund, Central New York Community Foundation, what is their role in all this?
They are the office managers. They are the...
So they're your backroom operations.
They are the front room operations.
Okay.
You know, we're the backroom operation. They are formidable in their legalese and financialese, and they are a sterling, high-level quality foundation, won many awards, and it's just a fine group of people to be affiliated with, and it's truly been an honor for me. So I've enjoyed it immensely.
And so they manage the fund, they help with the disbursements, they cut the checks. That's what I say back end.
Yeah.
They cut the checks to the not-for-profits.
Yeah.
They also help organize the meetings too, which are essential.
So it's called the, you are their...
We're just an affiliate of theirs.
You're an affiliate, but you're a leadership council. Do you self-appoint, or are you appointed by Syracuse?
No, we self-appoint. We have 3-year terms, and you're eligible to have 2 terms. I'm rolling off as of April 1st with my second 2-year term, or second term of 3 years, and new people are coming on, and we have our own little rules and regulations. And Bonnie Bennett from Aurora is the new incoming chair, and John is the incoming vice chair, and myself and Ken Knight will be saying goodbye. We came aboard 6 years ago when the Cayuga Health Association brought us in, and actually a lady that you and I know both well, Jean Wright, suggested that I take the chair, or take the seat, and I did, and have enjoyed it.
So just on that, I wanted to talk about your involvement. So Jean Wright, who passed away unfortunately
a couple years
2
ago.
years ago,
Yeah.
3 years ago now, very active in the Cayuga Health Network. And
She and Helen Burke were instrumental in that group.
And in fact, she was one of the people when the county contract was let and it didn't go to the local organization, kind of pushed it in the idea that this could go to the Cayuga Fund so that you could sustain this money.
She did.
One of her legacies.
Yeah, well, it was a wonderful idea, and Ken Knight had the same idea. I was on a different page myself.
And were you a member of the board at that
was,
time? Okay.
I was. And I thought the money should be given away. And then Jean is like, no way. And Ken Knight was the same way. And it was a marvelous idea. And every year now that this fund has grown, and this year we've gone from 2 grant sessions a year because it takes up too much time, down to 1.
So I was going to ask that because I noticed I went through your website, and we do encourage people to go to the website for a lot of different reasons. We'll get to that when you get to your event. You were at $35,000 for 2 cycles a year, and then I saw in the last cycle it was 68. So it was not 68 that you're going to do 68 now, and 68 in 6 more months. It's
No,
68
it's 68
per year.
once a year.
Okay.
And you're eligible to apply for up to $10,000. You have to be a bona fide 501c3. And when you apply, all applications are online now. And the application deadline for the spring round, or the annual round, is April 15th. So we encourage people to visit the website and go to just Google the Central New York Community Fund, go to the Cayuga affiliates, and the application process is there. They will walk you through it. You can call them. They will verbally walk you through it, but everything is online, and that begins the process.
So let's walk through just that particular piece. Well, before we do that, how large is your leadership council?
Go to the next one, I'll count the names.
Okay. It looks like there's about a dozen plus.
It's about that.
And they're all Cayuga County residents?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
That's where I was going with this. What do you fund? Well,
We fund nonprofits.
Okay.
So it's very neat. When the first time I'm 2 years in. And
so how did you get involved? I know how he got involved.
I was asked by Andrew Fish and Kelly Buck.
Okay.
So they just asked
2
me.
people who were supposed to be here, and you ended up being their replacement. But you're not going to comment on that. Okay. So you were asked to come on the board, and Mr. O'Gorman runs Farrell's Funeral Home. You are a banker?
Yeah, I'm a assistant vice president. I'm a business development officer at Savannah Bank.
Savannah Bank. So these are not your full-time jobs, but
No.
it does. But it
All
does
volunteer, all volunteer.
all volunteer. But we're going to come to that because you do some of the heavy lift that's part of this, and I want to get to that. But so you fund not-for-profits. You do fund some governments or educational facilities. I noticed. I think it's the Wheat Sports School District was one.
Swim program.
Swim program. Okay. Only in Cayuga County?
Yeah, only in Cayuga County. When they go through the process, there's a lot of them we go through, and each council member gets to pick a few of them. And then we go out to the organization, we interview them, we go through the process.
So you literally do the due diligence?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay, so give me an example of 2 that I'm going to ask you as well, 2 that you have reviewed over the last 2 years? Or,
One was, I know, Perform for Purpose. I've worked with Jim Van Arsdale a number of times. He's got his hands in everything, and honestly, if there's a nonprofit event, gala that needs music, he generally brings his kids.
But you go in there and you look at what do you look at as a board member? Because then you bring this back to the larger 12, the the board as a whole makes these decisions. It's not that you have X number of dollars to give out.
You could love the organization you're fighting for, but if the rest of the council doesn't agree with you, it's all in a rating system.
So you meet with them, you meet with their executive team, you figure out what you're going to do, and what else, where else have you gone?
And you go through the request. So once they fill out the request, we review it before we go out and see them. So if there's anything we have questions on, or we need a little bit more further explanation, I just ask them and just really see what if they go along with our mission, and are they really providing assistance, or are they really just helping their organization? So you really want to make sure they're helping Cayuga County.
So on that front, you do not provide operating grants for operating year to year. These are one-time special grants. Can somebody apply once and come back again?
They can, yes, absolutely. Now that they get down, they're just once a year.
Okay.
But there are basic fundamentals that they all have to meet. One, we need to see proof of their 501c3.
Okay.
We want to see proof of their board of directors. We want to see proof that their board of directors rotates, that they're not permanent life fixtures. And we want to make sure that the program has...
So term limits are good.
They're excellent. They're excellent. Let's not go any
further. I have that conversation on a regular basis with people, but no, I'm a strong proponent of that because it brings fresh, a different perspective.
Absolutely.
So tell me, who have you reviewed?
My last one was the YMCA, and we gave them a major grant, and they were able to put in a handicap accessible entrance to the pool.
Okay. So when you do this, then you bring it back to the larger board, and then they make the decision whether to go forward or not.
Yeah, we all make a discussion in front of the group. It's a like 3 to 4 hour process, and then we all at the end vote on it with a rating system.
Do you ever get somebody who applied for money, they just didn't have the right grant for you, and then you say, listen, we'll sit down with you, come back in a year or 2 years, and then fund them that way?
Happens. It happens.
A lot of their financials, you'll see, some of their financials just don't work. So you need to almost guide them on how they do that. Because you'll look through their financials, and you find out sometimes that we don't really know where this money is going, or is it just funding your whole organization right now just to get it going.
So largest grant is up to $10,000. That's the maximum, but usually and is there a minimum?
No. I mean, we've done 300 to 500. We've done 5,000s. But the matrix system that John keeps referring to is all the grant applications are received in Syracuse, and they're categorized, music, education, history, that sort of thing. And then they're brought into our breakfast meeting. We get one meal a year, and
which I enjoy.
They are voted on, and that's a difficult process because you're not trying to pit one organization against the other, but you're trying to stretch that $75,000 so that everybody gets something, or maybe a few get a,
So you mentioned Mr. Bisgrove and his vision back in 2006, 2008. He helped start this with a challenge grant, which meant that for every dollar put in, he would match up to and I think there were 2 challenge grants over time.
There were,
if not more. Do you do challenge grants? I look at that because, for example, we've heard conversations about people who are trying to raise money. Let's say for the statue of Harriet Tubman. Would you do a challenge grant that you're last in, or are you trying to get money on the ground in a given year, and we're not looking at beyond just the operations for a year or a specific project?
Go ahead.
Well, we don't do challenge grants, but we definitely, we're always looking for contributions because we're doing this every year annually. We'll talk about the event we're having in March in a little bit, but it's always about bringing more in because it's for the community. The grants are for the community, and it's to help the community. So we're always trying to bring in more money because there's always organizations to give to.
And you said you've given out over 400,000?
Yes, since 2010.
So when you take in Dr. Romano, Cayuga Health, Cayuga Fund, the Osborne, those others, any idea what the overall sum is that you have? Because you take a percentage of your growth as a payout. So if the market is not doing well, it's less, and if the market's doing better, that's good too.
Right. It's sort of a rolling average, though, that we use.
Okay.
So that's not a big hit if something, the worst case scenario, if it goes down. We have a little cushion in there. And yes, there's an administrative fee of about 1% per year that goes back to the Central New York Community Fund for maintaining their facilities. And then it's about 5% that we have to work on. And of that, we reinvest a 1.5%. and but we're into the millions.
Okay.
And we are also, the sidebar to that is there's a couple of folks that have designated significant funds for things that belong to Cayuga County, but we have no control of because it's all done with Central New York. There's a gentleman that was very generous with scholarships for students from Auburn High School and Union Springs High School. Again, it benefits Cayuga County, and all the money that we raise and receive stays right in Cayuga County as well.
So,
but that, like the high school fund, is between community fund and the
right.
high schools.
But you're still taking in money. So when we talked about
we
this,
always are looking for donations,
so
whether
people
it's
can go
large or small.
online, and if it's
we do memorial
$100 or a memorial to someone,
yeah.
But they can designate it for the Cayuga Fund or any of these other funds.
Absolutely.
So, and the key here is that money can't be touched.
Absolutely.
So the principle is there. So, and again, this is as it originally was explained, and again, not to talk about Jerry Bisgrove too much here, he basically equated your United Way as your checkbook where you're writing your operations. So whether you're funding something at Cayuga County Counseling or the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or the Salvation Army, that's a day-to-day operation, where this was for your longer term, if it was a capital need, because you do some capital,
we do.
Or if there's a special project. I know you do, I thought I saw on the list, you're doing an exhibit on women's suffrage at the Cayuga Museum.
That was one of the largest grants given. Actually, we gave out two $10,000 grants last year. One was to the Cayuga Museum for the women's suffrage historical perspective, and the other was for the Emily Holland House.
So among the 68,000, and I'll just read some of them if you have anything to add to this, you did ARC of Cayuga, of Seneca, Cayuga County. You mentioned the YMCA. You've done Booker T. Washington Center, the Cayuga Community Health Network, which is separate from what we were talking about before. We just mentioned the museum, East Hill Family Medical. You've done the Faculty Student Association here at the college, renovated an age-appropriate playground,
Mm-hmm.
which is right outside the door here.
Mm-hmm.
You've done the merry-go-round, Audubon Society, Seymour Public Library, the Transportation Project, Westminster Manor. So it's all over the...
We've done the new children's playground downtown.
So ABC Cayuga.
ABC Cayuga, we've done that.
We've
done, yeah.
Placement. So when you do that, those are all staying within the county, though, when you give the award.
Mm-hmm.
So how can somebody donate?
To go right on our website, I have to cheat a little bit.
It's okay.
It's www.
You are literally pitch hitting from an hour and a half ago, and we appreciate it.
www.cnycf.org/CayugaGrants.com or .org.
But if you put Cayuga Fund in your web browser,
you're going
to find it.
It comes right up.
And these are all tax deductible, and they can be multi-year pledges, items of that nature. So you're at 10.
It'll go forever.
I know, but you're 10 years old. So, any idea? You said over. I thought you said 400,000. Any idea how many grants you've given out? It's got to be dozens.
Well, it's in the hundreds, at least 100.
It's 17 just last year.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing to celebrate 10 years?
We're having a kind of like a celebration party at Auburn Public Theater on March 16th. The event's at 5:30 to 7:30. It's open to the public, but we'd like them to register on our website. Just we have an idea of the numbers. We have amazing backers. My Bank, Savannah Bank is sponsoring the event. Generations Bank is sponsoring the event. Courier Plastics. Inns of Aurora is even providing the food for the event, and the Citizens also providing sponsorship.
So is there a program for this, or is it a very short program, or is this just basically to celebrate?
It's basically to celebrate for 2 hours, to say thank you to our community, and to let people know as much of an awareness of this. We often get confused with other things that are Cayuga County and Cayuga community oriented, but it's just mainly just to tout the horn of we're available, and it's not costing the fund anything, so we're putting the word out, and there will be a short program. Peter Dunn is coming over, the president and CEO of the Central New York Fund, Community Fund, and Jan is coming over, our local liaison.
She's your staff person.
She's amazing.
So in doing this, you go online, or you can call Jan at 422-9538, and I'll give that number out again, 422-9538. 9538, and I'll give it out before we end. There's no charge to go to this event.
There's no charge.
You're
It's
just
free.
trying to get registered, so you have enough food from the Inns of Rural.
Well, and then we've even reached out to former grantees for performance
Okay.
while. So Perform for Purpose, they come in with this crew of people, like the kids play, it's amazing. They play at my Ignite the Winter thing all the time too. We have Auburn Chamber Orchestra, and then we even have the Merry-Go-Round Playhouse doing a little bit too.
So you have a little bit of entertainment there and a little bit of program. And I do know, I did try to do this so that I would be knowledgeable when I came on, but I registered for it this afternoon. If you want to make a donation, you can do it right online. It's very simple. It's putting your name, your address on.
And if somebody is serious about making a large contribution, we can meet with them in their home or in their office or with their attorney or with their financial planner. And again, it could be someone from the Syracuse office. It doesn't have to be someone local if you don't want your business known. But we are very willing to entertain those conversations and have had those. There are some significant things that are going to happen in the future to help benefit Cayuga County through this fund. So it's a wonderful, template of success. It really is.
Just a side note, you just mentioned tomorrow night, we're taping this on Thursday the 1st. Tomorrow's the first Friday, March 2nd. Ignite the Winter is not downtown in Exchange Street, just for people who might be watching. You are where and what's going on?
We are at the Hilton Garden Inn this year, and with the snowstorm coming, it's actually a good move.
Okay.
It's going to be from 5 to 10. 5 to 8 is actually just kids' activities, and then after that, music plays from 8 to 10, because the idea is you want your kids to go home after 8 to go to bed.
Okay.
But it's same thing,
I know
chill,
your
chow to
kids
cook off.
need to go to bed, and
Oh,
I know
my
mine
kids
does.
definitely
I
need to go to
I
bed.
know your kids, so that's right. I know mine. So with that. So make the pitch. You get this beyond all belief, because I know the discussion, you kind of had a shift of view in 2010 and 2011. Why is the Cayuga Fund important?
It's important because it maintains the flavor of Cayuga County. It maintains the fundamental principles of preserving, protecting, promoting. And, it all goes back to the infamous quote of, Margaret Mead, never doubt, never doubt that a small group of people can't change the world, And indeed, that's what happens. And we are changing the way these not-for-profits can get funding and give a little help. And another classic story, which is the Patrick building down in Aurora, Patrick's Tavern. We did offer them a little bump, but they were looking for money to repair the foundation. They have done a lot of work to it, and they were scraping by, and they did get a $2,500 grant, but only if they raised $2,500, which they did.
Okay, so that would be a challenge grant.
That would be a challenge grant to a different level, like of funding, but a challenge grant as far as, like the Bisgrove family did.
No, I'm talking about a challenge grant to not-for-profits. So you
that wasn't unusual. That's the only one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to do, but to go back to the Tubman statue, I'm sure that would be something that would be earmarked.
So, do you have a favorite? I mean, you've mentioned a couple. Do you have a favorite?
My favorites are the food banks,
Okay.
And that's strictly funded through the Cayuga Health Association money. The one food bank has a big garden out at Bosse's, and teaching people how to grow food and raise their own food, and gives them space to, have their own produce.
This is east of the property. They build out beds and all that.
We were very successful with that. We gave Wells College money to do a public market in Aurora, and then a St. Alphonsus food pantry gets large annual gifts.
Did you ever do something that you had some unintended consequences that have been really great? You just didn't think about it?
They've all been pretty successful. There's been one or two negatives that, didn't quite live up to what we thought was going to happen, but that happens.
And that's circumstances. Not everything you throw at a wall sticks.
That's right. But largely, it's all been successful.
Anything you stands out as a project?
My favorite's with the kids.
Okay.
I'm amazed. See, I grew up on the west end of Auburn, and I grew up when there weren't a lot of these programs going on, and some of my friends would thrive if they had a chance to learn an instrument or do something with their activities, just that they weren't doing it when they got out of school, instead of getting in trouble. And it's just fascinating to see some of these kids. I mean, they start off just trying to learn how to play something, and next thing you know, they're in a band in like 2 or 3 years, and I'm seeing them when I go out, and it's just, it gives you like goosebumps. it's something that music has always moved me, and it's really amazing to see these kids who, thought they amounted to nothing. They learn how to play an instrument, and then they've got something to build on.
Perform for purpose is probably the golden level of success. I mean, the success stories that come out of there are just amazing.
Whether they play at Ignite, ballpark.
He's played the last 4 years. I think every nonprofit function that if maybe you can't afford to have a band, he brings all the kids out, and it's amazing because it's not easy. I mean, he lugs all the equipment. I'll help him at the Ignite the Winter, but I know a lot of time he's doing most of it.
It's always a different group of kids. You know, there's always different levels.
And then they bring their parents out to the event. So sometimes you can get an event that's not even well attended. You bring Perform for Purpose out. Next thing you know, you've got 30 parents watching their kids play.
And that builds that synergy.
Oh, it sure does. It's amazing.
So again, you can go out, you can go online and just punch in the Cayuga Fund, and you can go online to register. And again, when is the event?
The event is March 16th, 5:30 to 7:30 at Auburn Public Theater.
And you'd like to have people register by the 12th.
Please register by the 12th at www.cnycf.org/Cayuga Fund.
And once you go to there, once you go to the Cayuga Fund, it's easy to find.
Make a donation, register for the event.
Or talk to your financial planner or your attorney. We can do a major estates here.
And you can also call Jan at the Community Fund. That's, as I said before, it's 422-9538. You have sponsors Generations Bank, Courier Plastics, Savannah Bank, and the Citizen, among others. And
Inns of Aurora.
And Inns of Aurora. We do want to thank our guests today, and thank Kelly Buck as well for helping to put this together. But we have John WILCOX, who is with Savannah Bank, but he's the incoming vice chair of the Cayuga Fund's Leadership Council, and Michael O'Gorman, who is rotating off in April after 6 years of good, hard work for the Leadership Council. Thank you for that type of service. And we do encourage you to, if you wish, to give to the Cayuga Fund. It's a great way to give some long-term stability and growth to our community. So we encourage you to go to the Cayuga Fund website or go to the CNY Community Foundation. They have links there as well. On Tuesday, we'll be back with two Beyond the Front Page shows back-to-back. The first one will be Wells College President Jonathan Gibraltar, and the second will be with the Auburn Public Theater, Carrie Idell and Angela Dodabo. They'll be on to talk about not only what's going on at the APT, but also the Red Sea grant that they recently received for renovations there. Next Thursday on Inside Government, we will have Auburn Police Chief Sean Butler, Sergeant Greg Dan, and School Resource Officer Chris Major in to talk about last week's active shooter exercise at Auburn High School, especially in the wake of the Parkland shootings. And then we'll finish up with a Beyond the Front Page, where we'll have Stephanie DeVito, the Executive Director of the Downtown Business Improvement District Partnership, to talk to us about what's going on downtown, events they're planning, as well as businesses are coming in, shifting around, and all that. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll have several guests on Inside Government, including Cayuga County Legislative Chairman Pat Mahunick, Owasco Town Supervisor Ed Wagner, Cayuga County Planning Director Steve Lynch, Auburn City Manager Jeff Digert, as well as we'll have on Beyond the Front Page another organization that is celebrating a milestone, Hospice of the Finger Lakes. So before we go, though, we would like to let you know that you can send us your questions or thoughts for future guests to Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page. You can do that at email at cozguytho@aol.com or at 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York, 13021. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We want to thank you for watching. We hope you have a good night, have a great tomorrow, and we'll see you back here in the studio on Tuesday.